Good morning. It is Monday, April 6th. We are going to learn about Rome today. This meme here is not an actual quote, but it's something that happened to Julius Caesar, who was an emperor of Rome. And he said, not actually, but in the meme he says, I used to be emperor, but then I took 23 stabs to the body. It's a meme in reference to Skyrim, where there's a bunch of guards who NPCs you talk to in cities that go, I used to be an adventurer, till I took an arrow to the knee. So, anyways, not an actual quote, but we're going to start looking at ancient Rome. We're going to look at a couple things today. We're going to look firstly at the legend of how Rome was created. Second, we're going to kind of look at the basics of society. We're also going to look at the geography, where Rome is and how Rome more or less started. Whether the legend is true or not, there's probably truth in the story of more or less how the Rome began. And that's going to lead us up to tomorrow, where we're going to look at the form of government of Rome, which was one of the first republics in world history. The republic will end up going to inspire the United States, as you'll kind of see tomorrow. So, without further ado, let's get to it. So, as we go through this, just take down notes like you would normally in class. Keep in mind, you can pause if you need to pause. If I'm going a little too fast, feel free to pause it. And last thing I want you to do is write down some questions you have. So as we kind of go through this, something you're curious about, a question you have, write some down so you can add those later. I'll make a separate little assignment here today that you can then post questions, and I'll try and make a reaction response video to that. Alright, so let's get to it. The legend of Rome. You can make this in Roman numeral 1 and I. That's fine. Or you can just write this as a title. What is the legend of Rome? Well, by legend, it says that in 753 BC, a legendary hero by the name of Romulus founded Rome. Now, who was Romulus? Well, before that, the story starts with a man named Aeneas, who was a Greek. And specifically, he was a hero of the Trojan Wars, who then moved to Italy after Troy fell. If you've ever read any Greek stories or mythology, one of the stories is about the Trojan Wars. It's about saving a princess named Helen who was kidnapped by the king of Troy, who wanted to marry her to his son. And actually, your Achilles heel in the same story is named after a hero named Achilles, who, by legend, said he was half man, half god. He was dipped into this river, and this river made him invincible, except his mother had to hold him by his Achilles heel, which ultimately will be what kills him. But the story continues when Aeneas moves to Italy. Some future descendants, it's not really clear whether they're his sons or just descendants. There'll be two of them, brothers named Romulus and Remus. Again, pause here if you need to write that. I'm moving on though. Here's the story of Romulus and Remus. In fact, they were twins who were abandoned by their mother. And the legend goes on to say the two of them were both raised by a wolf. I know, you're already thinking, what? Wouldn't the wolf just eat them? Well, that's the legend. They're children of the wolf. And this picture here on the right, there's statues all over Rome. Holden actually just shared one with me the other day. But there's let me see if I can pull that up real quick. But there's statues actually representing this very thing all of the time. Also, when the two grew up, the two of them are going to fight for control of Rome. They're going to be rivals with each other. And Romulus will end up ultimately killing his brother and created the first boundaries of Rome around Palatine Hill. And actually, here's the picture Holden sent me. I think he said it was a I think it's the soccer team in Rome. But Romulus and Remus are also on their flag. It's really cool. So, perfect example. Moving on, pause here if you're still writing. Pause here. We're moving on. But in the beginning, so Remus is killed by his brother Romulus, hence Rome, named more or less after Romulus. But in the beginning, here's the city of Rome that will be created. And here's a map that we'll be talking about. Ancient Rome really just began as a bunch of small little villages up and along the river. And what river? The Tiber River, to be exact. And this today is modern-day Italy, or at least the geography of it. In around 750 BC, probably because of outsiders attacking them, strength in numbers, all those kind of things, they're going to unite together, work together, and they're going to make what will become known as the city of Rome. And again, pause here if you need to write. I'm going to continue on now. The formation of the Roman Republic. For more than 200 years after Romulus, kings would rule Rome. There would be no democracy, no republic. There were kings. In about 509 BC, Rome would become a republic, though. And Rome's Senate was a group of elected representatives. So the people would vote into power others to represent and make choices for them. So as we saw last week in our government presentations, people in the democracies either voted directly or indirectly. And usually when you have a direct democracy, you, the people, vote on everything. Whereas an indirect democracy is more like a republic. So remember, most of Greece was a direct democracy. Whereas here in Rome, they're going to have a representative democracy through a republic. And the Senate will become some of the most powerful ruling bodies in Rome. So people who are in the Senate will become some of the most powerful men in Rome. Sorry, ladies. Pause here if you need to write this. I'm going to continue, though. And we're going to see a division in Rome here. And this is our last page we're getting down today. So we're going to see a division. And at first, most people who were elected to the Senate were known as patricians. There's money signs next to that, so you can probably guess, especially based on our picture. Our patricians are going to be the wealthier people. And they're going to control law because they were the only ones allowed to be judges. So not only could they be elected into the Senate, but they would also be the people who are judges, who rule whether someone is innocent or guilty in court, for example. And then we're going to see plebeians, who had the right to vote, but they themselves could not hold public office. So this was actually basically everyone else. And last thing, eventually, they will gain equality with our patricians. But it will take a while, and there'll be some epic conflict before that happens. All right. Again, you could pause here so you can get this down. But tomorrow, we're going to start looking at Rome and the conflict that's going to arise between these two. We're going to get some more. We're going to start here again on a flip chart, though. Get some notes kind of comparing the two of these, how they differ from each other. And really, you can just kind of continue on from what you got here if you want to write it this way. And then we're going to kind of look at the government of Rome. So, what I want you to do, don't forget, there's a second assignment posted. And I want you to write down a couple questions you have based on what we just talked about so far today. What's some questions you're curious about? And I can make a response video answering some questions. And secondly, don't forget, you need to post your notes. That is your assignment for today. After you take your notes, just take a picture of them and post them on the assignment like you were doing for vocab and everything else. So don't email it to me. Actually attach it onto this same assignment. All right, that's all I got for you today. So have yourselves a great Monday. Bye.